We'll start with a Patriots-Pittsburgh trade that, well, is just being talked about a little bit. That's George Pickens to the New England Patriots, who you mentioned earlier this week as a possibility, a name, a team to watch, as that makes a lot of sense for George Pickens. And truthfully, it does. Makes a ton of sense. However, when me and you talk, the conversation is, how much can you get for George Pickens? Can you possibly break into a late first-round pick for the star wide receiver in Pittsburgh? Everybody here thinks George Pickens is one of the best in the making, that he is a future all-pro. He's got all the talent in the world. This kid can do it all. It's the middle of the play attitude, maturity concerns that raise eyebrows and maybe dampen his trade stock around the NFL. Well, maybe we're wrong on both fronts, to be honest, because this mock trade, this trade proposal, I should say, from Musket Fire, Sarah Marshall wrote this, says, quote, if the Patriots are interested, it might not take too much in a trade to get a deal done. Despite Pickens being a former second rounder, he is not widely considered a top player at the position, mainly due to the quarterbacks he has played with, and could be an easy offer for New England with a high return. Do we think that we are totally off base when it comes to our evaluation of what George Pickens is viewed like around the league? Are we a little, I don't know, wrong, I guess would be the word, about how we view him and his stock in Pittsburgh compared to 31 other teams?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, this is a guy that before he got injured this year was well on his way to finishing top 5 in the NFL in receiving yards this year, and was widely known to be in that position. I think everybody realizes that this guy is an immense talent. Now, I understand that, if you're on the opposing fan side, if you're on the opposing team side, you're going to want to try to get this player for as little as humanly possible. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things, they know the talent that George Pickens has. And if they are moving on from him, it's simply because they don't think the person and the organization are a fit anymore. It's not because the player and the organization aren't a fit. That type of player, that level of player, that caliber of player is going to fit in most organizations. So It's not going to be an easy trade. It's just not. You don't trade away a wide receiver on his rookie deal that could have been in the top 3 in receiving yards this year in quote unquote easy trade. So while yes, I do think that there is a much higher than non-zero chance that they are going to look to shop George Pickens, by no means are they going to do that in an easy trade for any team, let alone the New England Patriots.
No, I agree. I was kind of taken back by this situation of, hold up. We could talk George Pickens probably going to get traded. We could talk George Pickens. There are concerns. We could talk whatever we want. At the end of the day, George Pickens is phenomenal. George Pickens does things on a football field that we have not seen before. There have been better wide receivers, much better wide receivers. The city of Pittsburgh has had a much better wide receiver. But George Pickens does things on almost a weekly basis where you go, how did you do that? How did you pull that thing off? And other teams at 23 years old, like you said, on a rookie deal, if it was character concerns, if this argument was, well, the immaturity is an issue, maybe that leads to a lower price tag. I get that. I understand that. But George Pickens isn't viewed like a high-level receiver across the league. I don't know if I get that same call. I mean, what I was told was they aren't going to trade him for nothing. And I interpreted that as they're going to trade him for a lot. There's, in the NFL, when you aren't going to trade a guy for nothing, it means you're going to trade him for as much as you could possibly get, and you aren't going to take much middle ground in the, the best we could do is a 3rd round pick. If you think George Pickens is worth a second, you're not budging until you get a second. That's what usually that means. I agree with you. I think a more realistic trade, which the Patriots could definitely be there. 2nd round pick, top of the 2nd round for George Pickens. Go get him. I mean, why wouldn't you? Maybe you go George Pickens and a late round pick for the early 2nd round pick. It's the 4th pick in the 2nd round.
36th overall, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go about it, but I have a really hard time believing that George Pickens goes for anything less than a second round pick this offseason. Look at these results. People are making free money betting on sports, making thousands every month. The secret? They're using OddsJam. OddsJam isn't just another betting app, it's turning the entire system in your favor. OddsJam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds differences across sportsbooks. Bet both sides, and no matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. You put $500 on Boise State to win on FanDuel and $335 on their opponent San Francisco on DraftKings. You're guaranteed to make $50 win or lose. With the OddsJam mobile app, you get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands monthly. To get you started, use our code ALLSteelersTalk for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll profit during that trial, and if you don't, cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to oddsjam.com, use our code ALLSteelersTalk, and start making money the smart way. Anything less, like the Steelers aren't going to budge on. They're not going to say, "Oh, we'll just give up a fourth."
Yeah,
no, like that's not going to happen. I would say second round, right? That's the benchmark for George Pickens.
Yeah, that's what we were kind of talking about earlier this week when you said, "Oh, what are your percent chances that he ends up getting moved?" And I said, I'd still put it around 50-50 because I don't know if anybody's going to be willing to pay what the Steelers want in exchange for George Pickens, which starts around that second round pick. So if somebody's just going to come and offer them, "Oh, well, we'll give you a fourth for George Pickens," Steelers are going to look at that and be like, "Okay, no, we'll deal with him body slamming people after plays." Like that's the thing is, he has the character issues that we've always talked about, but it's never really affected his availability on the field. He's never been suspended, even though he got close this year. The only thing that's doing is, one, potentially irritating your coaches and your other teammates, and two, costing him money in NFL fines. His availability has never been an issue. He's always been on the field. He's never gotten into legal trouble. It's all been, well, can you put up with it as a teammate? Can you put up with it as a head coach? And yeah, they might want to move on because of that, but they're not going to trade away that talent for that reason for a fourth round pick. It's just, it doesn't compute there.
No. And shout out Chris here. Find a sucker willing to overpay and trade Pickens. That's going to happen. Like, as we get into this,
Ryan Poles is still there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Chase Claypool went for a second round pick. The first pick in the second round. That's what he went for, because Ryan Poles was saying, we got to get Justin Fields somebody. Do you know how many coaches, how many GMs this offseason are going to have new young quarterbacks saying, we got to get him somebody? We got to figure something out. And Chase Claypool is 10th of George Pickens. Maybe. I mean, there will be the teams that just say, there will be the teams like the New York Giants who draft a quarterback. There will be teams like, I don't know, whoever gets Cam Ward, if it's the Cleveland Browns, saying, yeah, we have Jerry Jeudy. We don't have anybody else. Why not go get George Pickens? Like, you're going to have to overpay in that case. The Cleveland Browns clearly love to overpay for things. There are possibilities. Teams will get desperate. George Pickens will be top of the line here. You will get a sucker to overpay.
Could you imagine George Pickens and Greg Newsome in the same locker room, just walking into OTAs and be like, "Oh, hey, bud, how you doing?"
Yes, I can. You're telling me that the Steelers wouldn't trade George Pickens to Cleveland?
Oh, I'm not saying they wouldn't, but
again, I know.
It's the same thing as when we talked about T. Higgins coming to the Steelers via trade. It's like, okay, if we're going to do this, you're going to have to overpay. Like, you're going to have to look like a sucker in order to get this deal done.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns have done that many times in the past. It does not feel like they wouldn't do that. So we'll see what happens.